Joining me now, Congressman Devin Nunes, ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. Sir, very good to have you with us this evening. You know, with regard to the Mueller hearings, which are scheduled to take place next week, first of all, by the way, do you think they're actually going to happen?
I do. I have a pretty strong confidence level that Mueller's now going to appear. He's had enough time now to get briefed up. They expanded the time he's going to be here, so he's going to do a 3-hour hearing and a 2-hour hearing, 2 different committees.
All right. You know, in terms of what you expect in those hearings and what you think Republicans are going to be doing, and you said recently that you believe that Democrats have been back-channeling Robert Mueller in order to sort of give him some ideas about helpful phrases that he could drop during this that might give them the momentum that they need to keep moving forward on the Russia probe.
Yeah, I really expect the worst because Bob Mueller does not have to show up. So he's doing this on his own free will. That tells me the last time he operated on his own free will, everybody forgets. Barr came out with a memo, was very clear about the decision that he had made, and then a few days later, Mueller decided on his own to go out and hold a 9-minute press conference. So I am very concerned, and I think we should expect the worst because he only has to say a couple things, and the rest of the media, I'm not saying you here at Fox, but 90% of the media will take one little phrase and run with it and try to run towards impeachment.
You know, I mean, we can't, obviously, we're not, psychologists, but I'm just curious, you know, as you look at the history of Robert Mueller, he's got a long history in Washington, D.C. He didn't have to do this, as you say. So something is motivating him, or someone is motivating him. Perhaps the people who worked very hard on this project for 2 years, who definitely want, sort of their legacy to be understood in a way that perhaps is more favorable to the findings that they feel were substantial, if not indictable.
Well, the whole report is a joke. And, you know, look, I know there was no collusion and I know there was no obstruction. And so in that sense, it was fine. However, this whole investigation was an obstruction of justice trap. It was a trap, and I hope people understand why. Mueller, when he walked in the door, knew there was no evidence of collusion and conspiracy, and they knew the only thing they had on obstruction of justice was Comey's memos. I mean, Comey illegally leaked those memos to the press, and for what? In order to try to get a special counsel. So, you know, sitting with this investigation open, yeah, which he admitted. Yeah. So sitting with this open for 2 years, to me, I think people should look at this as an obstruction of justice trap. And then, you know, you can go through for the $40 million that we spent on this report. There are so many holes in this report. It was heavy on a rhetoric, and I always say it kind of read like a bad Russian spy novel.
Well, the folks on the other side of the aisle say exactly the opposite. They believe that most people haven't read the report. They think a lot of Republicans haven't read the report. And they believe that this is an opportunity to sort of keep it alive and that once, you know, they ask their questions of Robert Mueller, sort of detailing some of those 10 instances that were laid out in terms of possible obstruction. And then, you know, we who've read it know that when you get through the explanation, it says, but that is not what we found ultimately, or it was indeterminable.
Well, and believe me, we have went through this line by line, and that is how we know that, especially in the collusion chapter, the collusion volume, he repeats himself. The report repeats itself several times, and one of the concerns that we're going to have is that, you know, we expect someone who spent all this money to be able to answer the underlying questions to what built that collusion document. Because remember, they had crazy things in that document. I'll just give you one quick one. That somehow the Republican Party tried to weaken its platform. That was a conspiracy theory. It's been debunked. There's no evidence for that. Why was it even in Mueller's report? And on the same hand, they don't even look at Glenn Simpson and Fusion GPS, who were behind. You know, this infamous Trump Tower meeting that was held, it was like an 18-minute meeting with a Russian lawyer. Guess what? She was meeting the day of, the day before, the day after, with who? Glenn Simpson from Fusion GPS. I mean, these are questions that Mueller needs to answer.
I hear you, and you know, we've talked about them. We've talked about them with you in the past. You know, but when you look at, so tell me how you think that will go. So Republican asks basically the question that you just asked. What do you expect Robert Mueller is going to say? That wasn't my mandate. That wasn't what we're doing. There are other investigations that are doing that. I mean, isn't that likely what he'll say?
Well, I think the American people need to know, look, if we're worried about his mandate originally was to look whether or not there was any Russian involvement in the elections. Now, if you looked at the Trump Tower meeting, wouldn't you want to know who the Russian lawyer, what other Americans that Russian lawyer was meeting with? Like, why did that Russian lawyer just decide to go to the Trump Tower meeting? I mean, those are basic questions that we would expect an investigator to ask. And my guess is he's either not going to answer or they didn't interview Fusion GPS, which would be really bad.
We'll see. That's something we're going to be watching very closely over the next few days. Chairman Nunes, thank you very much.